Welcome to Above The Jpeg, the place where you can find the best NFT content for entrepreneurs. This is Kango, and today I am going to talk about the progression of ownership systems. So, ever since people started learning about NFTs, this word of ownership just being thrown around. A lot of people don't really know what ownership is, or they don't really understand like where it comes from and what form of ownership they are really talking about, right? So today I think understanding the ownership system and how it's originated, how it progressed will really help you in implementing NFTs or just think about NFTs overall. The first type of ownership system is first possession ownership system. First possession ownership system is basically there weren't many people in the world at the time or in a certain region, and you basically go up to a tree and say, I own this tree now and I am going to have it. That's basically what it is, right? And that's not uncommon. Those are very similar to the days where we are hunter-gathering. Those are basically first possession ownership society. And then we have a communal ownership system. That's basically similar to communism, except without leadership, right? Items were shareable within a community to its community members. If we're in the same community and you bring something into this community, I get to use them as well. So that's communal. And then we have command ownership system, kind of like Egypt back in the day, where people build stuff, people give stuff to people who have higher status, right? And today what we have is called title property ownership system. So first of all, the first three type of ownership systems are actually really common back in the day, all over the face of the earth. But the titleship owner system is not. The title property ownership system also existed. If you go back to the Bible, you see that people have write about God telling its people to not steal from each other, to not take other people's property. That is basically title property ownership. The title property ownership system that we have today, we call it the modern day title property ownership. And it really originated from England. So back in the day in England, when England was first formed, people in England decided that the king of England owns all the land of England and is being given by God, so that they cannot take it. And the funny thing is that the king can own all this land, but the king wouldn't have enough labor power on his own to be able to produce anything meaningful. So basically, he decided he is going to let other people use his land and take a percentage cut of it, so-called tax. So basically, the king allows its people to have a state, an interest over a certain piece of land that he owns, and do whatever they want to produce things meaningful. By things meaningful, mostly I'm talking about food back in the day. And when people produce food, they give a cut to the king as tax, which is still very foreign to what we think ownership system would be. So today, the ownership system that we're sitting on, a lot of times we don't really think about we're giving our part of our earning to some other people, right? Because that's just very different from the ownership system that we think that we're living in. So the modern day title property ownership that we have here in America mostly, in particular, which also influenced a lot of other countries in Europe to really switch into the system that we have today. When people first formed the government of America, they've seen how bad it is to have king on all the land of England or any other country in Europe. So they decided that instead of having a king to own everyone, we're going to have collectively the people to own all the land of America. So it's not that the private individual, a single person, owns all the land of America, but collectively own the land of America. So people like to simplify it, saying that private individual owns the land of certain part of America, but not really. Really, it's the people, the American people, as a whole, owns all this land. Interestingly, we have all this ownership system that was started back in England, the court, the law enforcement system, and then it's all transferred to America. But instead of having a king, we replace it with the people, because it's more fair that way, right? Because it's just more fair. Come on, let's face it. So that's really where the modern day ownership system come from. Now let's tie it back to the internet. Let's get on the internet now. I love the internet, right? For the past 2 decades, the ownership system that we have today really doesn't work very well over the internet. There's limitation to there are some limitation to the title property ownership system that we have today, which is that in order for it to work, we are mostly disputing over something physical, first of all, within a certain boundary where the law enforcement will be able to enforce its law. Let me give you an example. For the past 2 decades over the internet, if I created something in America, I posted it online, and some fucker from Russia or wherever decided to take a piece of that, take my work on the internet, and decided to monetize off that as their own. They can do that, and there's not much that the American government can do about it, right? Because I live here, and what can they do about it? So that's the limit. That's really the limitation where it comes into using title property ownership that we have today over the internet. Now, more and more people are tying their identity into a digital world, like Twitter, Instagram, like all these different places, right? And there's definitely going to be more places where people tie their identity into on the internet in the future. Now it became extremely crucial to have an ownership system on the internet to be able to generate anything meaningful, right? Like any economy that is meaningful on the internet. So that's where NFT comes in. 2020, 2017, it was the first time ever that there is a possibility of ownership over the internet, where people can agree that, hey, this is how we decide who owns what, right? You write stuff on the blockchain, whoever mints it first, whoever mints it owns that particular item, or whoever gets a transfer from someone else who owned it before over the internet. And that's the first time we see that a form of ownership being formed over internet, and it was NFT back in 2017. Now 2021, a lot of creators started to using NFT as a way to sell their works, which was great. But the significance of this is that it brought more people to recognize that ownership over the internet is possible. And here, NFT is the ownership system, the first generation internet ownership system that we have for us to own stuff over the internet. It doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter where you live, this became a system. And the good part about this system is that code is law. It's written into the code, which is honestly great, right? Compared to you having to talk to the court, talk to the law enforcement. I think this is a way more efficient ownership system. Now, NFT as the first generation internet ownership system, I think it's great, as well as it applies to the items that are actually not just on the internet, not just digital, but also physical, right? Today we have a lot of people who are discovering how to use NFTs and tie it back to the physical goods and give it the new style of ownership system. And that's really what it is. And I think I covered it pretty well today. I know that I'm not a great presenter sometimes, but this is the progression of ownership system. And that is important. The progression of ownership from where we come from to where we are today and where we're going in the future, things are going to change. The system is going to change for the better. Not even NFT is going to be there forever, I say. Because NFTs will be replaced by the next generation of better, some sort of ownership system. They are more efficient, they are more convenient, they are more boundaryless compared to NFTs. And that is going to happen, right? So it's definitely important to understand the ownership system that we have today, the ownership system progression, where we come from, to understand why we're switching to the NFT standard, why is NFT ownership standard more efficient than what we have currently in the physical world. So thank you so much for watching this episode. I wish you guys were able to take away something meaningful, and I see you guys in the next video.